Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be my yearly shopping my stash for the Pantone color of the year. I look forward to this video every year. In past years, I have collaborated with Elizabeth with an S. She is my buddy from Denmark, but at this point in her life, she is extremely tied up with a little baby, and her filming schedule has been inconsistent, to say the least. I did reach out to her to see if she was up for doing a collab with me this time, and unfortunately, she's just not available, but she is hoping to come back to YouTube soon, so keep your fingers crossed for Elizabeth that everything, works out and she could come back because we miss her very, very much, especially me. I miss her very much. I love her videos. Of course, I'm still watching her videos because I am 3 years behind on YouTube, so However, let's get on to the Pantone color of the year. So by now, maybe you've heard the Pantone color of the year is Viva Magenta. And there were a couple things that struck me when I saw that Pantone color of the year. The first thought that struck me was, I don't have any eyeshadows of that color, but of course I do. And the second thought that really struck me when I looked at that color was, I thought magenta was much more pink, but this is kind of like what I would call a strawberry red. It's a unique shade, and it was a little surprising to see what Pantone describes as magenta or Viva Magenta compared to what my brain thought magenta was, or what it turns out a lot of these palettes that I have pulled out think that magenta is. Because as I'm going through these palettes, looking through these shades, I'm seeing a lot of shades labeled magenta that are actually much more pink than this shade that I'm probably flashing up on the screen. But before we get into the eyeshadows, let me tell you what Pantone says about magenta, because they always write up a very flashy, wordy review of the color of the year, as well as the inspiration behind it. So, what is Viva Magenta? Pantone's color of the year, Viva Magenta, vibrates with vim and vigor. It is a shade rooted in nature, descending from the red family and expressive of a new signal of strength. Viva Magenta is brave and fearless, and a pulsating color whose exuberance promotes a joyous and optimistic celebration, writing a new narrative. This year's color of the year is powerful and empowering. It is a new animated red that revels in pure joy, encouraging experimentation and self-expression without restraint, an electrifying and a boundaryless shade that is manifesting as a standout statement. Viva Magenta welcomes anyone and everyone with the same verve for life and rebellious spirit. It is a color that is audacious, full of wit, and inclusive of all. In this age of technology, we look to draw inspiration from nature and what is real. Pantone Viva Magenta descends from the red family and is inspired by the red of cochineal, one of the most precious dyes belonging to the natural dye family, as well as one of the strongest and brightest the world has known. Rooted in the primordial, Pantone Viva Magenta reconnects us to original matter. Invoking the forces of nature, Viva Magenta galvanizes our spirit, helping us to build our inner strength. This is usually the place where I insert a huge eye roll. Now, take that information and do with it what you will. That's what Pantone is saying about the color. What I'm taking away from it is that it's a pretty strawberry red shade that we are going to likely be seeing throughout the year and possibly into next year. Typically, the Pantone color of the year does find its way into makeup, and so as a result, I like to shop my stash for these colors to remind myself of what I have. And as these colors might become more popular throughout the year, and we might see them in palette releases or eyeshadow releases or makeup releases in general throughout the year, I will be able to remind myself and refresh my memory of what I already have, and hopefully control the urge to purchase anything new just because it's the Pantone color of the year and it's kind of trending. So although what I've pulled is specific to my stash and my makeup collection, I would strongly encourage you to shop your stash for this color and see what you have, because you might surprise yourself. Now, Since this color is very specific, in general, I think I only found 2 eyeshadows in all of my collection that I thought were like spot on dupes of that Pantone color of the year. However, I did find an inspiration picture online when I Googled Pantone color of the year 2023, and it encompassed a lot of the deeper, like kind of berry shades as well as a little bit more pinky shades, and I used that picture for inspiration when I was pulling shadows from my stash, because ultimately I very rarely do a one-dimensional monochromatic eye look. I definitely like to include lighter shades on the inner portion of my eyelid, and I like to include darker shades on the outer portion of my eyelid. So what I'll be swatching today is kind of using this picture that hopefully I have up on the screen right now as my inspiration for the shadows I pulled for this video and for this eye look today. Let's start with the 2 shades that I felt were the closest to being spot on for this Viva Magenta shade. Hopefully I can remember what they were. Okay, I don't think this is going to come as too much of a surprise, but the palette that I thought of almost immediately when I saw this Pantone color of the year is this guy, my Blood Sugar palette from Jeffree Star. And the shade that is the closest I can find to Viva Magenta is this one right here. Nope. Is this one actually right here called Fresh Meat. Now this looks too dark for Viva Magenta to me when I see it sitting in the pan, but when I swatch it out, it is pretty accurate, and it is actually the shade I have all over my eyelid today. I have a little bit of this deepest plummy shade called Coma in my outer corner, and I have another shade that I'm blending this out with in my like crease and transition area, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. But this one here called Fresh Meat is pretty spot on for Viva Magenta. I think you could see how much lighter it is even there on my finger. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me, but let me give you a little swatch. We're gonna start right here. Okay. Yep. There you go. Okay, next I have my Lime Crime Venus XL palette. I know they have a few Venus XL palettes, but I think this is the original one, or the first one. And the shade I'm going to swatch is this one up here called Passion. Now this looks completely different than the Jeffree Star one I just swatched, but actually I think they're very similar swatched out, which I find really fascinating. And it just kind of goes to show that you really don't know what you're dealing with unless you swatch it, play with it, and put it on your eyes. Now this one looks much lighter in the pan, but it looks much darker on the finger. Look how close they are, side by side. So I can't explain any of that voodoo, but I'm just reporting what I'm seeing. Look at that. They're very close. This one seems to be a little bit more pink, but I would say they're both under the category of Viva Magenta for sure. Okay, I feel like a lot of the rest of these that I pulled are more like the supporting actors, or, you know, like close but not dead on. I feel like these 2 are dead on for Viva Magenta, but we're gonna just keep going and swatching and see what I come up with. Next, I have my Gingerbread Spice palette from Too Faced, and I'm going to be swatching this shade up here called Gumdrop. I think it's a little bit pinkier to be Viva Magenta, but we'll see. Not bad. Not bad. All right, I have my Sephora Pro New Nudes palette. If it says New Nudes on it, I want it. I want all the palettes that say New Nudes. And guess what? This shade right here is called Magenta. And it seems to me that it's a lot more pink than the picture of Viva Magenta, but because it actually is called Magenta, I had to pull it. And this is closer to what I think of as Magenta, but we'll see, we'll know more when we swatch it, right? Swatching definitely tells a better story. My phone just, oh my gosh, my phone just constantly thinks I'm talking to it. It's got big ego. Oops. So I think with us being only 4 shades into this video, it's safe to say that I have a lifetime's worth of Viva Magenta, because this isn't a color that I reach for every day, even with it being the Pantone color of the year. I don't see myself reaching for this shade every day. It takes a little bit of balls to wear this color. Now, I think these would make beautiful lip colors, and I haven't shopped my stash for lipsticks I own in this color, but I think it goes without saying that if you're not into putting magenta on your eyelids and this doesn't work for you, whether it's because of your comfort level with wearing makeup, or because of where you work, you can't, or because of your eye color or skin color or whatever, it just doesn't work for you, I would definitely encourage you to shop your stash for some lipsticks, because I think this is a gorgeous lip color, and I wish I had time to shop my stash for lipsticks, but this video is obviously just focused on eyeshadows because that's what I'm most obsessed with when it comes to makeup. But yeah, if you don't feel comfortable wearing a Viva Magenta eye look, check out your lipsticks. But yeah, I'm good on magenta already, and we're not done. I have a huge stack of palettes to go through still. Next, I pulled my Pat McGrath holiday palette. This is the Mothership Mega Celestial Odyssey. It was the holiday palette from last year. Well, 2021, not 2022. I'm not sure at this moment why I pulled this palette, but I am going to go ahead and swatch this matte up here as well as the shimmer right here. I think I was looking for magenta shimmers because I felt like I was finding more mattes than shimmers, and I was just looking for something because you guys know I love shimmer on my eyelid. So I'm pretty sure the names of these shadows are labeled on like a plastic sheet that is not with the palette at this moment. So I'm sorry I can't give you the names of these shadows, but you know. That's the shimmer. Nope, not talking to you, Siri. And this is the matte. Okay, next we're gonna go in with the original Lorac Mega Pro. There is a shade in here called Mulberry. Right there. And I think it will fit right in. It's a little bit deeper. It has a little bit more brown in it. But like I said, I don't see myself doing a one-dimensional, monochromatic, Viva Magenta look from day to day. If I am going to wear this eyeshadow, it's going to have darker shades and lighter shades to kind of make it all work. I've also pulled my Modern Renaissance palette from ABH, and I was thinking of the shade Love Letter right there. This is one of my favorite shades in the Modern Renaissance palette. Viva Magenta. I also have my Pure Visionary palette. And again, I think I pulled this palette out for this shimmery shade right here, which is called Icon, because I was looking for something that has some shimmer to it to complement some of these matte Viva Magenta shades. There it is right there. I'm starting to love how these swatches are coming together. I also have my Lila palette from Natasha Denona, and the shade isn't called Magenta, it's called Magentic. And again, it looks really pink to me when I'm staring at this palette. It's this one right here in the center, but you know, Natasha, you and I might have gotten this magenta thing wrong, because Pantone says it's not pink, it's a red. Oh. Maybe Natasha didn't get it wrong. Maybe it's just me that got it wrong. Next is my ColourPop All I See Is Magic palette. It's kind of washed out, but there it is right there. And this is a deeper shade, this one right here. But again, I think it will fit right in with this magenta vibe and complement these shadows for a complete eye look. It's dark. Look at that. Oh, I think it's beautiful. The shade in here is more on the pinkier side again. This is the Masquerade Mini by Juvia's Place. And I want to swatch this shade here called Zobo. Yeah, it's a pinky purpley shade. All right, one more swatch on this arm. Definitely has a bit more pinky purple to it. Let me give that one another swatch. It's definitely got a little bit more pink, but again, when you swatch them out, it's amazing how they all kind of work together and look so similar. We can't do a shopping our stash video without my e.l.f. 100 pan palette. You guys know that. And the shade that I feel is closest to Viva Magenta is this one down here. This shade did not get a ton of love last year throughout Pan That palette. I probably used it a few times, but that is the shade that I have blended out in my crease and transition area. And I think it is a perfect shade because it's not super pigmented, and these not super pigmented shades have been great because I don't need a super pigmented eyeshadow in my crease that is gonna, you know, make a big mess and blend out to my forehead. And that's what I love about these shadows. They are just so wonderful. So that is the shade I'm gonna swatch, and I'm gonna switch to my left hand. Paula, start switching to your left hand. Definitely more pink than red, but it reminds me of that strawberry red, strawberry pink shade. So you can see what I mean. It's faint, but that's what's so lovely about those old shadows. They're nice and faint. I like pigmented eyeshadows on my eyelid. I want the most pigmented eyeshadow on my eyelid ever, but I need those nice, faint, lightly, you know, not as pigmented shadows to go everywhere else. Aside from the Jeffree Star Blood Sugar palette, another palette that definitely caught my attention when it came to this Pantone color of the year is the Naked Cherry palette from Urban Decay. Here is what it looks like here. I think there's a few shadows that might fall under the magenta umbrella, but the one that I wanted to swatch for you guys today is this one here called Young Love. It's another shimmer. And I do feel like my shimmer to matte ratio is a little bit off. I'll go ahead and swatch Bing too. Why not? Bing is this one right here, and this one is Young Love. So those are the two I'm gonna swatch. Okay, Young Love and Bing. My Lorac Desert Sunset palette has a gorgeous shade right here, which is called Sunset. And that reminds me of Viva Magenta. It's, you know how Lorac shadows are. It's not, let's see what it swatches like. It looks satiny in the pan, and it kind of looks satiny in the swatch. It's definitely a bit more muted. This palette is called the Makeup Forever Lustrous Shadow Palette. I've had it for a while, never really used it. And I'm gonna swatch this shade up here. Wow, that is lovely. I have a couple of ColourPop palettes. This is the Element of Surprise palette. I'm actually going to swatch the shade down here in the corner. It's another one that doesn't look like a bright magenta shade, or what I think of as magenta, but it just seems to be a lot darker in the pan compared to when you swatch it out. But it also might make a nice like crease shade or like outer V shade. There it is right there. And oh, look at that. Okay. The She palette, the Femme Rosa She palette, I'm gonna swatch this shade down here. It'd be interesting to see how these are side by side. Ooh, let's swatch that again. I don't know what's going on there, you guys. That is, look how much pigment is on my finger, but it's not transferring to my arm. I don't know what's going on there, but we're gonna keep it moving. That was not a beautiful swatch. Okay, up next we have a couple more palettes from Juvia's Place. This is the Zulu palette. There is a gorgeous strawberry shade right down here. It's a little bit lighter. It looks a lot like Viva Magenta in the pan, but when I swatch it, it does come off as a lighter, pinkier shade. But because it is like spot on in the pan, I wanted to swatch it, and because, like I said, I think there's a place for it. Look at that, it's so pretty. Oh, it's so pretty. And then another deeper shade comes from the Saharan 2. I'm gonna swatch this one down here. I'm like keeping my arms out because I'm afraid that I'm gonna get magenta eyeshadow all over my shirt. Not that it's that big of a deal, but I'm trying not to. So I'm finding my arms are like getting a little workout. Oh, oh, I love that palette. I'm gonna make that a pan that palette one of these years, you guys. I just love that Saharan 2 palette. It is so, so yummy. Why did I pick this color to swatch all over my body? It doesn't want to come off. This is the Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette. And granted, it's coral. I think this shade will work well with this Viva Magenta look too. It's that strawberry red. So I figured I would swatch it. And if next to all these swatches it looks straight up orange, I will know that it is not magenta. But there it is right there. Look at that. It's definitely a little bit more orange. Interesting. Maybe not. Maybe it's getting kicked out of the magenta club right now. Okay, this felt like a little bit of a stretch, but I also think it kind of works. I have my Too Faced Sugar Pop palette. Remember this one? And I have a shade called Bubblegum right down here. It just looks like a pink, but when I swatched it, I thought it would kind of work with this magenta color story. Boy, these are crooked. Can you tell which hand is my dominant hand? Why did I pull this palette out? I also pulled out my Huda Beauty Amethyst Obsessions palette. I think I pulled it out for this shade right down here. That seems like the likeliest one. So let's go ahead and swatch it. It fits. We're down to just 2 more palettes. I have another Too Faced Tin palette. This is the A La Mode Eyes palette. And I have a very bold pink shade down here called Monaco. Definitely a bit more purpley. But as you can see, when they swatch out, you never know what you're gonna get. Oh my gosh, I need to just give up over here. Yeah, see, it kind of fits. The last shade that I pulled comes from my Makeup Geek and Manny MUA palette. It is this bold shade here called Mars. There it is right there. So there we have it. Give it up. All right, that is everything right there, you guys. I think it's safe to say that I am set with this shade for not just this year, but many years to come. If this shade of eyeshadow becomes a huge trend and everybody is wearing it, I will be all right. I will not need to go out and buy a single eyeshadow that is this shade because I am good. I am good to go. There might be a couple more shades lurking around in singles or palettes that I missed, but this alone lets me know that I'm good, and I could probably supply all of my neighbors with magenta eyeshadow for the year as well. Like I said, this is not the most wearable color. I like it. I don't mind it. But it's a mood, you know, you got to be ready to go for a bold pink eye look, and you need to commit, because if you only go halfway, you might end up looking a little bit sickly. So my only tip is to say that if you want to do a magenta eye look, commit, go all the way. Don't go halfway. And definitely do some kind of eyeliner and mascara. So those are my tips for Viva Magenta. So I'm wondering, do you guys have any of these palettes? And if so, which ones are you going to be playing with this next year as we're looking at Viva Magenta for our inspiration? And what lipsticks do you guys have that you think will pair nicely with this eye look? I was really struggling on what lip to pull for this look. Did I want to try and dig through my lipsticks and find a magenta lipstick that matched? Or did I want to go with like a basic nude, like a concealer nude? In the end, I went with my pink eyeliner that's in my 50 Pink Before 50 project, and a clear gloss. And that's what's going on my face. But it was kind of hard to figure out which lip color would look best with this bold eye look. And yeah, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about pairing lip colors with this bold eye look. But that is going to be it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you had fun and felt inspired to go ahead and shop your own stash for this color. And do keep that in mind, as you know, inevitably makeup will be released that reflects this Pantone color of the year. It's been happening for many years now, and makeup brands try to capitalize on this and sell you product that, you know, maybe you don't need, maybe you already have it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.